Hi, Chi-Sing. Welcome back.
Hi, Norman. For having me here again.
Yeah, your mic's on.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Norman. Thank you for having me back here again. Sorry about the, the mic issue just now.
Yeah, no worries.
So let's get right to it, right? So welcome everyone to another session with me. As Norman said, I will be covering how to create viral content. So let me just start sharing my screen and then we'll start the session. Okay, so before we go ahead, let me just introduce a little bit about myself in case you were not here with me the last time. Uh, can everyone see my screen? Just drop me a confirmation. Right, so just a little bit about myself. I'm a writer and authority builder. I've been a writer for the past 23 years. I started my career in 1997. And right now I'm moving towards branding and authority building. Authority building is basically where you want to develop a higher level of influence in your market, where you're not just selling, but you are actually developing your influence, your authority in the market, where you actually want to influence people to the point where they want to buy instead of you pushing sales at them. You want to develop your authority to the point where people want to buy, and that's moving into now. And these are my contact details. If you want to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and you can also come and visit my website. I'm going to drop the links into the chat box, and well, just click on it and connect with me whenever you have the time or anytime that you are able to. Okay, so what are we going to cover today? We are to cover three parts. I'm hoping to finish in about an hour. It might go to slightly more than an hour, and at which point Norman will be reminding me to wrap it up. So part one is how to make people want to read your content, right? So I think a lot of people, they expect that you produce content and people will read it, which is not true. You produce content and people must want to read it. Otherwise, what's the content for, right? And so that leads us to part two. So what makes audiences want to read and share your content? Ultimately, we don't just want people to read the content. Preferably, we want people to share the content, right? Because if people find it interesting enough to share content, that means number one, you have a reputation. You have built yourself a reputation, or you are building yourself a reputation. And of course, it also means that you have something important to say that people think is important enough to share. And that builds your reputation as well. And third part, that's where I want to cover the actual nitty-gritty of how to write viral content or produce viral content. Okay, so as we go into part one, if I'm going too fast or going too slow, or if you need any clarification, just drop it in if you have questions, drop it in the Q&A, or if you need to notify me of anything, just drop me in the chat box. Then I'll be able to see. So part one, how to make people want to read your content. And I think this is really the key. As a writer who has been doing this for over 20 years, I think one of the biggest misunderstandings that people make is that if you produce content, people will read it. It is not true. Okay, so you look at this iceberg, and I think all of us are very familiar with this picture. And this iceberg usually is used to illustrate that whatever achievements you have is actually, there's a lot of things that is actually just the thing that we see. There's actually a lot of things that have happened that we don't see. It's the same for producing content, right? The right at the tip of the iceberg is the act of producing content, the thing that you can see, the content itself. But how do you create good content? That comes from experience, and that experience is also, you can see, people can see that you have 10 years experience, 5 years experience, how many years experience. And the more experience you have, or rather the more good experience you have, then the higher your chances of creating good content. Now, what people do not see is the effort that you spend learning about how to create good content. So that's where the knowledge part comes in. And that's where we are all here today. You know, we want to learn about how to create good content that's very shareable, very engaging. But to me, if you ask, I would say the most important thing about creating good content is your insights into human nature. Content creation today has become very technical. You know, people write for SEO, people write for UX, UI, people write for, fun created. It has become very, very technical, and it has become very tactical, very executional. But I think in the midst of all this, you know, these are very useful and very relevant. But in the midst of all this, sometimes we forget that we're actually writing for humans. Humans are the one who's going to read, and humans are the ones who are going to decide whether what they read is worth their time or not. So we have to understand human nature. What makes people want to read something? What makes people want to share something? What would be interesting for people? What would move people? What would drive people to take certain actions? So this is really the key. If we do not know, if we do not have a deep understanding of human nature, very unlikely that we will be very sure about creating content that can move people, right? So it will always be a hit and miss. And all right, am I back on?
Yep, you're back on. You're back on.
Okay, so all right, can you see the screen again? What I'm going to cover today, the act of writing, producing content, which is going to be the second half of the webinar, where you're going to learn the 5 things that you have to do to create viral content. But and then especially insights into human nature, the 7 reasons why people share content. All right. So what makes audiences want to read and share? So these 4 key features found in all viral content was based on a research, a survey done by a company called BuzzSumo. So BuzzSumo is a real huge content marketing and research company. And what they did was they surveyed 100 million posts. And they found that all the posts that went viral have at least one or more of these key features. They not necessarily have all these key features, but they at least have one or more of all these key features. All right. So this is based on evidence. This is not just based on somebody's opinion. So first key feature is it's amazing, funny, or entertaining. Of course, we know this. We are familiar with this because why? If you think about your own content consumption habits, think about the content that you share. If it's not amazing, if it's not funny, if it's not entertaining, you will not share it, right? And not only that, it has to be amazing enough. It has to be little bit funny, you know, those are not shareable. It has to have a certain level of amazing and a certain level of funny, a certain level of entertaining. And the more amazing, the more funny, the more entertaining is the content is, the more chances it has of getting shared. So our in content creation, in writing, the thing is, how are we going to aim to hit this first feature, right, in our content? Second, it makes people look good for sharing. All right. Of course, nobody wants to share something that makes them look dumb, right? We all of us have an image of ourselves that we want to keep, and I think COVID-19 was a very good example of this, because there was so much fake information coming out, and all kinds of silly remedies and questionable practices, and people just sharing it because they were afraid. But then later it turns out to be, oh, this was fake. The WHO or the Ministry of Health comes out and say, no, this is fake news. So, and then it's very embarrassing, right? So after a while, it sort of balances itself. So whenever something is being shared, then there'll be another group of people to counter it and say, no, this is fake, this is dumb, this is silly. So that eventually came to a balance where there was less and less weird news being shared out. So yeah, this is one of the features that makes viral content. List or December countdown, right? Nobody counts up. Nobody counts 1 to 10 and then it's midnight and Happy New Year, right? It's always countdown. So it's just that our psychology is made up like that. We like lists. We like it to be organized. Infographics, that's why work very well. Again, COVID-19 is a very, very good example. The Ministry of Health, even until today, has a daily infographic of whatever the COVID-19 situation is in the country. And this is very shareable, very informative. Until today, when we are more normalized, people still do share these infographics. And if you go to the ministry's Facebook site, it still gets a lot of engagement because it's very easy to consume. There's a lot of information there, but within just one infographic, you can get all the information you need. And that brings me to my next point: information from trusted sources. Again, COVID-19. Even though there are a lot of untrustworthy sources, giving really weird advice, people mainly still wanted to get information from trusted sources like the government social media pages, official statements in the news, expert opinions that were published in the news outlets. So all these carry more weight. So between the weird news, the weird WhatsApp, talking about putting onions, cutting onions and putting them around your room to kill bacteria and all that. Between that and what the ministry says, yes, people would prefer to share information from trusted sources. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a case study now. This is a story that I wrote. In fact, this is the first digital content piece that I wrote. I think it's about 6 years ago. Yeah, that's right. So at that time, 6 years ago, I didn't realize all these principles. So I just wrote, and when this piece went viral, it came as a very big surprise for me. So, and subsequently, after getting success for a few more times, I then only I sat down and started to think, okay, why, what's going on here? If you had 1 or 2 successes, then maybe it's a fluke shot. But when you start to get it consistently, then okay, something is working here. So we need to sit down and think about it. Okay, can everyone see the website? 10 English words. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you can see it. Right, so 10 English words you didn't know had Malaysian roots. Now, from the headline itself, okay, try and remember back what are the four features, right? First is amazing, funny, or entertaining. Second, it's it has to be funny or amazing, funny, or entertaining. Second, it has to be information from a trusted source. Thirdly, it has to make you look good, right? Fourthly, it's excuse me. Oh, what's fourth? I can't remember now. Okay, never mind. So look at it at the headline. 10 English words you didn't know had Malaysian roots. Now, would you say that this headline is making an amazing claim? English words that came from Malaysia? So the headline itself is making an amazing claim, right? So therefore, now people will want to see, can you back up this claim or not? Okay, so if you read on, I'm going to skip the introduction, it's quite long. Okay, let's take this word, compound. In modern times, compound refers to a cluster of buildings within an enclosure. Enclosure could be wall, fence, hedge, or other structure. It may even be formed by the buildings themselves when they're built around an open area. So originally, the word compound was used to describe an enclosure for a factory or settlement of Europeans in the East. And then if you look at the last paragraph, the word compound originates from the 1670s, derived from the Dutch word kampong. And this is very clearly derived from the Malay word kampung, meaning village or a group of buildings, right? So this one, does it sound like somebody did a lot of research into this? Does it sound like a person actually went through the history of these English words and really traced them back to a few hundred years ago, how they were being used, right? So you have one factor, one of the viral factors already is amazing, okay? And then you have another one of the factors already, which is from information from a trusted source. Now, this website is not a trusted source. This website is basically just a news feature website. But you feel that this can be trusted because it sounds like this person has actually done a lot of research. So if a person has done a lot of research, then automatically you feel that, okay, this person can be trusted, right? So let's look at another one. Any kid, let's look at cuties. Cuties is a skin disease, right? So any kid unfortunate enough to be diagnosed as having the imaginary cuties disease face instant ostracization by his peers. It's all pretty fun if you're the one teasing. Unless you're the one diagnosed with cuties, then you may need therapy, right? If people tease you about these kind of things, if you're a kid, then you might need therapy. So it's a little bit of a light joke there. So yeah, so it's not just facts, but it's also entertaining. Okay, so the virality factors are now stacking up, right? So if you have come across this one and then it's amazing, it's entertaining, it sounds like it's from a trustworthy source, would you want to, if it really crosses that threshold where you feel very entertained by this, would you share it? And if you share it, would you feel like, wow, it's not going to make me look silly if I share this, right? Very likely if I share this, people enjoy it. I'm going to feel good because, well, I shared it, right? I spread the goodness around. So does it make you look good to share something that you enjoyed and that you feel that other people enjoy, right? So I'm sure you do, and that's why people share anyway. So then you have the virality factors that are stacking up. So it's amazing, it's entertaining, it's trustworthy, and it makes you look good for sharing. All right. Excuse me. And oh yeah, the last factor is list or infographic, right? So this is a list. 10. right? 10 English words. So you have all, now this article has all the virality factors in it. It's a list, it's entertaining, it's amazing. It sounds like it's from a trustworthy person who has done a lot of research, and therefore when you share it, you won't look silly. You actually look good because you're entertaining other people, right? So all the four factors are in this story. So at that time, I didn't know about these four factors. I just write to entertain myself, and other people found it entertaining as well. So now I know why. So ultimately, this story eventually got, I think about, I can't remember whether it's 3006 or 4002 shares. And that was pretty amazing for me because it was my first story, and I was thinking like, okay, I'm happy if it hits 100, but well, that's eventually went to, yeah, a few thousand. Okay, let's move on. Let me change my screen again. Right. So the 7 reasons, and this is important. The 7 reasons why people share content. It's important, but at the same time, it's really common sense, right? When I go through this list, you will start to realize that, oh yeah, because all of us are humans. All of us have human nature, and human nature doesn't change. That's why right up front, I say it's very, very important to have insights into human nature. It's very important to understand human nature in order to create content that reaches into people's hearts and touch them. So here are the 7 reasons why people share content. And this is also based on research. People have done a survey of hundreds of millions. Sorry. This was done by another company, and they surveyed a few thousand people and asked them their opinion why they shared content. And these are the seven common reasons, the most common reasons why people share. First of all, people share to give. Again, you know this, it's human nature. We are a social people. We like to share, right? So if you come across a special offer or special discount, something is on sale and somebody would appreciate that product, you would want to share, right? And it's not just online, it's anywhere that you see. You might be driving past a shop and you see it. Let's say, for example, you see an electrical shop that has TVs for sale, right? You just so happens that your friend is looking for a TV, so you call the friend up and, hey, look, this shop is having a sale. Why don't you go and check it out? So it's human nature, and it translates into digital as well. If we see anything that's beneficial, like for example, offers, discounts, or any kind of beneficial things, right? Even if it's not a financial benefit, it could be benefit in the sense that it entertains or whatever, right? We want to share. So we share to give. Secondly, we share the advice, tips or helpful hints. Again, COVID-19 is a very, very good example of this. During the early days of COVID-19, people were sharing all kinds of advice, even nonsense advice, like I said just now, cutting up onions and leaving it all around the house to kill the germs. But people were so afraid that they would share this anyway, right? Advise people, just in case it's true, take it with a pinch of salt, but just in case it's true, you might want to try this. So advice is really something, a very strong motivator. Warn is also a very strong motivator. Again, COVID-19 is a very, very good example. Anywhere that has a red zone, anywhere there's a breakout, anything that's happening, we share all the time, right? Recently, there was a case of a highway cladding falling down and crushing a car. That became very, very shareable. Not only was it an amazing thing captured, but also a warning. Be very careful when you're driving along that stretch of road. Watch out because who knows what else might fall. You share to amuse, right? Entertaining content. Entertaining content is very, very shareable. Anything that's funny, you share, right? I'm not sure whether you got this video about the Kalisa recently, last week, I think. The Kalisa that went through the the flood, and there were the people, the video caught the people actually cheering because, wow, so happy, this little local car can actually pass through the flood. So we share to amuse, and this is very, very common. We share to inspire, right? How many of you are in WhatsApp groups? Whatever WhatsApp group you're in, especially if it's a family group or friend group, what is the most common content you can expect in those groups? Your good morning messages, right? Good morning, my dear friends. Here's something to inspire you for the day. Good morning. Some kind of inspirational quote, some kind of spiritual quote. Always, 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 right? So it's annoying to those people who don't enjoy, but to the people who enjoy this kind of stuff, it's inspiring and they want to share it. They want to share it because it's inspiring to them. They want to inspire other people as well. I don't know about you, but I find it very annoying. Imagine if you're in a group with 50 people, 10% of them are sharing every day. Oh my gosh. Okay, but that's human nature, right? We share because we want to inspire. We have been inspired. We want to share it with people to inspire others. And of course, amaze, right? Just now we already said amazing content is very, very shareable. So anything that's amazing, especially if it's pictures, because it's very fast, you can see what's amazing about it. Videos or amazing facts, like the article just now, 10 English words that has Malaysian roots. And finally, unite. This is one major factor because everyone wants to feel like they're part of a tribe. Everyone wants to feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. Either they want to join a tribe or they want other people to join their tribe. So anything that creates a tribe, very shareable. For example, Manchester United. Anything about Manchester United comes up, definitely it gets shared. Anything about Liverpool comes up, definitely it gets shared, right? And then all the Liverpool fans will come and then they comment, right? So sharing things that unite is very huge. I'm going to give you a case study and we're going to look through and see which of the 7 that we can identify in this article. Right. Some of you might have seen this. Some of you might have seen this before. China didn't invent CNY Yisang. This Seremban man did. Now, let's look at the 4 viral factors again. Okay, first, amazing, funny, entertaining. Now, the headline: China didn't invent CNY Yisang. This Seremban man did. Is it amazing? Right? It's making an amazing claim. Yisang, Chinese New Year tradition, didn't come from China. And that's not the amazing part. The really amazing part of it is this Seremban man did. So it's not only, you're just not only making a claim that China didn't invent this, you are actually identifying one very specific person at one very specific place, and there's a photograph to go with it. Amazing. Very amazing, right? So again, then people will come, can you back this up or not? Can you back up this claim or not? Okay, so if you can back up this claim, then that means what? Does it sound like somebody has done a lot of research? If yes, will it sound like it's from a trustworthy source? Now again, Chili Sauce is not a authority site, it's a news content site, or rather a current issues content site. So let's go down here Okay, so let's look at this paragraph. Yisang is crazy popular in Malaysia and Singapore, but most Chinese in the rest of the world have absolutely no idea why we are playing with our food like this. So if most Chinese don't know about Lo Hei Yisang, where did this Chinese New Year tradition come from? So the language is a little bit entertaining already, you can see, right? We don't say that we are tossing the salad, we're saying I'm writing here, we're playing with our food. Okay? And there are links here. So links means verifiable, right? So starting to sound like authority, starting to sound like entertaining, definitely is making an amazing claim. So what else? Is it a list? No, this is not a list. So that's one factor out. But will it look good to? Will it make you look good if you share this content? I think at the very least, if you have read all this and it sounds really trustworthy, yes, then you share it, and then yeah, you share something good, right? So again, then we come to the seven reasons why people share. You share to give, right? And this is, you're not giving a benefit to people, or like money benefit, but you're giving a benefit of it's entertaining, right? And the last factor that we talk about, right? The reason why people share, it unites people, because why? Malaysia and Singapore, we all have this argument about who created what food, right? And CNY Yisang is one of the major arguments. Who created it? Singapore has a claim, Malaysia has a claim. So Singapore's claim is very specific as well. It's the 4 heavenly king chefs in Singapore during the 1960s, right? So this one, after all that research, finally came to this part where it says, after the war, Luk's catering business was slow to pick up. World War II, 1940s, right? So he remembered that the Cantonese had a tradition of eating yushang on Renre, the 7th day of the Chinese New Year, and decided to revive the tradition. But instead of preparing yushang the traditional way, Luk would create a much more elaborate yushang recipe. Aha! So there is a claim here, right? In the 1940s. So Singapore's claim is 1960s. Malaysian claim is 1940s, and there is a lot of research here, right? About the family, about the person, what he did. You know, there are photos to go with it. You know, and there's eyewitness testimonials. You know, more photos, family stories. So it suddenly becomes, wow, this is an authoritative article that all Malaysian Chinese can unite and claim, yes, we now have definitive proof that Yusang comes from Malaysia. Screw the Singaporeans, right? Nonsense claim. So unite, the factor became that motivation became very strong, right? What other motivations were we looking about? Amaze, right? We share this to amaze other people, right? One of the reasons why people share, right? So again, the key viral characteristics of the story, 3 of them are here. It's amazing. It sounds authoritative. Oh, sorry, it sounds like it's from authority, trustworthy, and therefore you can share it and it will look good. Because why? You are sharing to inspire other people. Because yes, finally we have proof it's from Malaysia. You share to unite people. Because why? We are Malaysians. This is our heritage, right? So out of the 4 key features, 3 are already here. Out of the 7 reasons to share, you have unite, you have inspire, you have amaze. So it's probably like 3 or 4 out of the 7 reasons why people share content already. Which is why, if you look at the share counter here, it's 44,000. Because the story is big enough, the claim is big enough, and the proof looks like it's big enough. In fact, this story was used in Wikipedia for a few days at least. On the Wikipedia entry about Yu Sang, people went, a lot of Malaysians went and cut and paste a lot of these facts, a lot of this story into that page, and it was cited as a authority. But I think the Singaporeans went in and edited it later, and at least this story was famous for a few days, but no more. It's no more there. Okay, moving on. So now I'm going to go into the practical part. How to write viral content. Okay, first of all, if you expect viral content to be easy, this is a wake-up call, right? Digital Marketing Institute analyzed over 500 million articles and found that most content get very, very few shares. 500 million articles, an average of 8 shares, right? If you look at the graph, the tallest bar are the stories that get less than 50 shares. All right. So if you are a client, please be merciful to your content creation agency. Don't tell them what a lousy job they are doing if they can't get you more than 50 shares. It's normal. All right. If you're a content creator, don't feel bad, right? Less than 50 shares is normal. Average 8 shares. And this is not a small sample. It's a sample of 500 million articles, right? All over the internet. So how then do we always see all this viral content from sites like Buzzfeed and all that? Volume. They create a high volume, a very, very, very high volume of content on a weekly basis or even on a daily basis. So for example, if they want, let's say for example, if they target 1 week to have at least 2 or 3 viral content, well, based on statistics, like here, they're going to have to do like, let's say five pieces that are going to go viral. Maybe in a week, they're going to have to do publish about 100 pieces of content to get the 5 pieces of content that's viral. Because if you look at the numbers here, it's probably over 90% of all the content in the world never get more than 50 shares. Right? So just a little bit of a wake-up call. Be realistic about expectations. If you go viral, very good. If you don't go viral, it's normal, right? But in my case, I had a very unusual experience. In my case, just now we look at the graph. This is like 90%. 90% of the content do not get more than 50 shares, right? In my experience, about and also what is the definition of viral? If you look at the definition of viral, since 90+% gets less than 50, so I guess to be fair, this second bar is the 50 to 100, right? Because the last bar here is 200. So 50 to 100 is already much shorter than the first bar in the graph. So to be fair, let's define viral as more than 100 shares. Okay, then we can safely call it viral content. And this is based on statistics lah. It's not just some random number that we plucked up. So in my case, it was very unusual because about 30% of my 30%, something like that, of my content has gotten a few hundred shares. I think another 25 to 30% of my content has gotten a few thousand shares, and about 10% of my content have gotten about more than 10,000 shares. So all in all, maybe 60-70% of my stuff have gone viral, right? So it's way above average lah. And that's why I started to think about this, and I only really sat down and really done the research. Why? I think about last year. So certain things I'm sharing with you now is actually in hindsight lah. Hindsight, of course, is 2020 all the time. But you get the benefit of hindsight now as I look back and research why these things are doing well. So 5 things that you have to do to create viral content, speaking from experience. First, you have to know your stuff, right? Because if you want to be shareable, one of the viral factors is it has to come from information. It has to become from a reliable source, right? Authoritative source. So if you are writing content and you don't sound like you know your stuff, or then your chances of going viral is lower. But it also depends on who you're writing for. If you're writing for lay people, if your level of knowledge is too high, they won't get it, right? So then it doesn't go viral as well. So it really depends on who your target audience is. So if you're targeting a certain level of audience, you should be writing at a level that's slightly above them. So they learn something new, but at the same time it's familiar. So if you're writing for example, you're a technology company and you're writing for laymen, it's very difficult to go into really the technical details, right, to show your expertise, because it's way above their heads. They cannot understand it, right? So bring it down to a level where they can understand, but just a little bit higher to show that you're an authority in this space, right? One of the rookie mistakes I see a lot of writers make is when they're not familiar with a particular subject. For example, a copywriter is for the first time writing writing for a technical client, for example, right? And so that client's audience might be other technical people, right? So for example, VLAN Asia, they're a technology solutions company, and their clientele is mainly technology, CTOs, technology officers, people in charge of digitalization. So they will have a certain level of knowledge. So if a writer comes in, right, and he has no experience in this, and he starts to do research, so every piece of research that he does is new to him. And if he writes it down and he presents that as a content and it gets published, all this stuff that is new to him might not be new to the audience, right? And if it's not new to the audience, and the audience is thinking, wow, this is really kindergarten level stuff, it's not going to be impressive. So you have to know your stuff to the point where you can confidently speak to your target audience at a more or less equal level, right? So that means you have to really, number one, know your target audience. Number two, you have to really know your stuff, right? Knowing your stuff means knowing how to dumb it down if you're talking to a lower level of knowledge of audience as well, right? Because simplifying is one of the I think it was Albert Einstein who says, if you don't know how to simplify your knowledge to explain it to the point where you can explain it to an 8-year-old, you don't know your subject well enough. So know your stuff. This is very, very crucial. Secondly, have the right word count. Now, this is a little bit controversial, because what is the right word count? A lot of people say that, okay, for digital, 500 to 800 words is good enough, right? Because people don't have the patience to read it. So I'm going to show you a case study here, and you decide for yourself what is the right word count. So this is the story I wrote, I think about 6 years back, 2014. 5 Malaysian criminals who are 100% supervillains. Again, wow, amazing headlines. who are these people who are not only criminals, they are super villains, right? But okay, let's look at the word count. So it starts like this, and then yeah, there's a list also, right? So the factors are stacking up already, right? Amazing, it's a list. And then we start here. Then it goes down. And it goes down. And it goes down. And then we come to number 4. And it goes down. More. And then we come to number 3. And then we go down. We go down. And we go down some more. We come to number 2. More. Number 1. Okay. Does anybody want to guess how many words this is? Okay, drop it in the comment. Just a very, very quick guess. Anyone? No? So, you know, today there is a word, there is a sort of like a little warning that people will give you, right? This is going to be a 1-minute read. This is going to be a 2-minute read, you know, or this is going to be a 3-minute read. You know, they give you that warning so that you can decide whether you want to you know to spend that kind of time to read it or not. This article is a 20-minute read because it's 5,000 words.
They have given some answers, Jising.
Right? It's 5,000 words, and 5,000 words not counting the captions. You have captions here, right? So 5,000 words, the story itself, not counting the captions. If you count the captions, probably 5,005, 5,006, something like that. So, well, if people are saying, well, digital content 500 to 800 words, good enough, people are not going to read. Well, then how you explain this? 5,000 word story gets 15,000 shares. People actually spend 20 minutes reading this. And not only that, there's a poll at the end here, right? They made it all the way to the end. They made it all the way to the end, and then they actually took a poll, right? And if you look at the result of the poll, more than 5,000 people took the poll, right? So they were so motivated and inspired after reading this 20 minutes that they actually went in and they took the poll. So this was one of the triggering factors that made me really sit down and think, oh no, what's going on here? No, what's working? So this one shows that it was a very, very engaging piece of content. So what's the right word count? The right word count is basically any number of words that you need to tell your story, right? If you can tell your story in 50 words, tell it in 50 words. Don't go more than that. If you can tell your story in 500 words, tell your story in 500 words. Don't go more than that. If you need 5,000 words to tell your story, then tell your story in 5,000 words. Okay? Whatever word count is right to tell your whole story. You know what's really annoying for me? You know, I like to cook, and when I want to try a new recipe, the first place I go to is always Google. So for example, if I want to try a tuna casserole recipe, and when I Google tuna casserole recipe, the page comes out. What happens? Click, go to the page. I'm looking for the tuna casserole recipe, right? But when I start reading, what do I read? Oh, I love this recipe so much. My family loves this recipe so much. My children ask for it every 2 weeks or every 2 days. You know, I got this recipe from my mother, and she got it from her grandmother. We used to sit around the kitchen table and eat this, and then we had such great times together. Blah, 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 blah. The recipe is right at the bottom, right? Why are you spending 500 words to tell me about your grandmother's stories? I didn't come here to read your grandmother's stories. I'm searching for tuna casserole recipe. So 500 words, 50 words, doesn't matter. What is important is you deliver, right? You have to give audiences what they want. Because if you start, I mean, right today we are talking about SEO, inbound content marketing, whatever. Yes, it's important. SEO gets you noticed on your Google search, but when people come into your page and they start reading and they start hearing all these grandmother stories instead of what they are actually came to look for, what's the point, right? They're gonna get bored and they're gonna leave. If you look at the story again, let me share again. Okay, so the headline says 5 Malaysian criminals who are 100% supervillains. You look at the first line, you might think that supervillains only existed in movies, comics, or books. You know, those guys in costumes that look awesome on paper, but you rather die than wear in real life. Okay, headline promise you supervillains. First line already talk about supervillains. Okay, so second talk about supervillain powers. Third line talk about supervillains really existing in real life. And then fourth line, true to the spirit of Malaysia Boleh, our beloved country is not short of world-class supervillains. So headline promise Malaysian criminals who are supervillains. First paragraph supervillains, second paragraph supervillains, third paragraph supervillains, fourth paragraph Malaysian supervillains. And straight away, number 5 Malaysian supervillain, continue to number 4 Malaysian supervillain. So it delivers right away what the headline promised. Okay, give audiences what they want. Don't keep them waiting, you know, tell them grandmother stories and all that. Okay. You have to win your audience line by line as well. Okay, and this is very crucial. A lot of people seem to think that I put out the content and people read it. It's not true. Nobody starts reading content or nobody starts watching content if you're doing video. Nobody starts with the commitment to finish until the end. Nobody. You yourself don't do it, right? Nobody starts reading a piece of content with the commitment to finish. So your content has to win audience line by line. You start with the first line, and if the audience is interested, they'll read the second line. If they're interested, they'll read the third line. If they continue to be interested, they'll read the second paragraph. And if you continue to interest them, as long as you continue to interest them, they will stop reading. They will continue reading. The moment you stop interesting them, that's when they stop reading. It's as simple as that, right? The moment you stop interesting them, they might give you another 1 or 2 lines just to see okay or not. But after that, this looks like it's not going anywhere. Out. So you can't just depend on SEO to get people into your site. You have to understand insights into human nature. That's what I said just now. What will keep people interested? What will keep people reading? Right? Win your audience line by line. And that's the only way. Nobody comes committed to read everything. They will read until they're interested. When they stop being interested, they're out of there. So that's also the reason why don't tell grandmother stories. Don't start with grandmother stories before you actually come to the meat of your content, because that's not what people came for. They came to read the content they want to read. If your headline promised them to tell them this, tell them this. Don't give them the whole background story of what it's all about, unless it's really necessary. Okay? And finally, you have to tell a good story. All right? So you might have a technical product, but you got to find a way to make a good story out of it. that's where the content strategy comes out. That's where the content creativity comes out, right? Let me give an example. A couple of weeks ago, I met up with one of my LinkedIn connections. He asked me out for coffee. So he asked me a question. He's in interior design. Then he said, how can I create content, being in interior design? Because sometimes his clients do not want to know, do not want to publicize who is their interior designer and all that. And the other problem that he had was he's a new company. They don't have much in terms of design that they felt that is worth talking about. So in that kind of situation, how do you tell a story about your product or services? So you need to have a little bit of creativity lah. A lot of reasons why people cannot tell a story is because they're very fixated on their product, right? They're very fixated on the product, and this product has got to sell. I got to sell you my product. I got to sell you my product. I got to sell you why I'm good at this product. I'm going to sell you. No, the fixation is on the product. The fixation is on the sale. Okay, how many things can you talk about in terms of your product and in terms of your sale? Right? 2, 3, 4 times, you're dry already. You've got nothing more to say. Right? So how do you create a story? And this is what I suggested to him. Okay, you're interior design, right? So what is your core? What is the core of who you are? You have to demonstrate creativity. It's not just about your service. It's not just about your portfolio of design. You have to demonstrate to people your creativity so that they can see, okay, this is somebody that I might want to look for when I want to do interior design. So how do you do it? How do you demonstrate your creativity? Very simple. Interior designers, they use technical pencils and technical pens, right? So I know. So technical pencils, you have a set of 12. Technical pens, you have a set of 6, something like that. Okay, so very simple. One, you do a review of the pencil, of each pencil and of each pen. So 12 pencils and 6 pens. You have 18. You have 18 pieces of content there. Okay, and then you take up a pencil. For example, you take up your 2B pencil, and then you explain what this pencil, the characteristics are like, what it's good for, and then most of all, because you want to demonstrate your creativity, right? You start demonstrating how to use the pencil, the strengths and weakness of the pencil, and you start sketching with the pencil. What do you sketch with the pencil? Well, since you're sketching and you're demonstrating your creativity, why don't you sketch interior design of something? Right? So immediately using this approach, well, I'm not sure whether it works or not, but immediately you definitely know you have 18 pieces of content already, right? 12 pencils and 6 pens. You have 18 opportunities to demonstrate your creativity, your expertise, your knowledge, right? Now, to you, you might seem, it's a pencil. What are people? Why would people be interested in a pencil? You don't know. You might be surprised what people are actually interested in. You won't know until you put it out. Put out your content, see the reaction, and then adjust yourself. But back to the point, it always has to tell a good story. Because why? People want to be entertained. People want to be inspired, right? People want to be amazed. People want to feel good about reading this. So people don't feel good about your product, right? People feel good about what? What your product has done for people, what your product has changed in the lives of people, in the businesses of people. And then they can identify, oh, this person looks like his story sounds like my story. Okay, your product has helped him, maybe it might help me, right? So it has to tell a good story. That is on the technical part lah. But if you have a product that is more amenable for telling good stories, even better. But what I'm saying is, even for technical products, you can create a good story around it. All right. I think some of the best storytelling is from Thailand ads, right? So I saw an ad by a Thai insurance company wanting to push sustainability, right? And they had this 3.5-minute ad, beautiful. I'm not a Thai, but I felt very moved. But when I went to YouTube and I saw the comments, oh my goodness, it has an even deeper meaning for the Thais because certain imagery, certain concepts, right? So powerful storytelling. So sustainability is such a buzzword nowadays. You know, people talk like it's boring to me actually because we hear the same thing all the time. But how they did it is amazing. It's really amazing. So always look for a good angle where you can tell a good story. Okay. In conclusion, in the real world, the examples I showed you all are actually my own digital content where I had the freedom to choose the subject and I had the freedom to write it in the way that I want. But in the real world, when you have certain KPIs, right? So you have certain constraints, you have certain word counts, you have SEO requirements, right? Clickbait headlines. Okay, maybe you are concerned about volume of your volume of content to produce, frequency of content to publish, consistency. What is the most important? Back to the point that I made right at the beginning, right? You are writing for human beings. So it's human beings who will read your content. So you have to write for people. Don't write for KPIs, right? All these tools, SEO, search terms and all this. These are helpful, but end of the day, you need to write for people. You don't write for KPI, right? Write to add value. Don't write to just produce content. And this is also very important because why? If you're just writing the content, people will understand. People won't understand, but they will feel it. They won't understand the technical issues that you had to go through to produce the content, but they will feel whether your heart, your passion, your story is in the content, whether you have put your personal value is in the content, or whether you're just taking off the checklist of this KPI met, this KPI met, this KPI met. People will feel it. So if they feel that you're just taking off all your KPIs, done. It's gone. It's not engaging. Right? So always aim for quality. Don't just aim to produce something. And to me, the quality, my definition of quality is when you produce this content, did you learn something? Right? Did you enjoy writing or producing this content? Were you excited or moved or motivated producing this content? Again, your audience might not understand the technicalities, but they will feel you. They will feel whether you enjoyed it. They will feel whether you are passionate about it. They will feel whether you are learning something. I mean, if you're talking about discovery, they will feel whether you're discovering something, you know. So always aim for quality and value. Don't just aim to produce something. All right. Okay. So I thank you, Norman.
Yeah.
For giving
now
me
it's the
this
Q&A
time.
session
So we
time.
have questions now.
Yep. Okay, before we go into the questions, right, Chiseng?
Yeah.
Can we just quickly go back to the 7 pointers? Can you just run through the 7 pointers?
7 pointers, sure.
Yeah. By title, yeah. What are the 7 pointers?
Yeah, 7 reasons. So first is to give. Then second is to advise. Third is to warn. Fourth is to amuse. Fifth is to inspire. Sixth is to amaze. And the 7th is to unite.
Right. Okay. Reason why we went through that is because we really apologize for the connection just now. We had to drop just now earlier in the session, but it's fine throughout the session, right? I hope everyone had a good connection throughout the session. Okay, so the question that came in, right, Chiseng, one of them was asking that how do you get inspired to produce viral content or content in general? I struggle from writer's block, and sometimes my creative juice gets stuck.
Okay, are you asking about original content or client content?
This came in from our attendees, so I think we'll probably just go for the general aspect of it.
If you're talking about original content, then it's very easy, right? For me, my process is I'm very curious about the world around me. I'm especially very curious about my country, Malaysia. So anything that I see that's interesting, I will want to dig deeper. And if it continues to be interesting, then I want to pursue it and I write it. So you notice all the examples I gave you is all about Malaysia, right? The 10 English words there from the Malaysian roots, supervillains, Malaysian supervillains, and the Chinese New Year Yisang starting from Malaysia. So my inspiration is from my curiosity, right? My curiosity about the world around me and especially Malaysia. But if you're talking about client content, I think the important thing is you have to be curious about your client, or even if it's your own content, let's say your own company content, I think you need to look at your own company's content, products, processes in a new way. Let me give you an example. Sometimes I think one year ago, I helped produce a video for a sugar producer in Malaysia, and one of the videos they wanted to do was about their production, sugar production. So the first draft from the video production company was very typical documentary, right? Very technical, very general, very corporate, and the client didn't like it. So so I went in to assist, and we looked at it, and finally after a while, we came to the same conclusion. Yeah, it's very technical. It's basically it's dull, right? It's dull. So what they did is they called the floor production staff into the meeting, and then the floor production staff came in and they started telling us about what happened on the production floor. And what happened was then we started to ask questions. Okay, why do you do this? When you use this technical term, is too big for us. Actually, what does it mean? So as they start to explain it in a way so that we understand, and then we start to respond by asking more questions. Oh yeah, okay. If you do it, why do you need to do it this way? Oh, because if we don't do it this way, then this thing happens. So we have to do it this way because and then it became really fascinating. Right? We started to learn new things. Oh, so this is how sugar is produced. Oh, so this is how you do it. Oh, this is the reason why you do it. And from that meeting, that documentary, actually, the script for that documentary actually evolved. And eventually it became something like a David Attenborough nature documentary kind of feel. If you know David Attenborough, the way he narrates the documentary is the language he uses is very layman. And he always has this very curious kind of tone of voice when he's explaining the scene. And it became that. And it became very interesting after that, because we finally had something that we can explain to an 8-year-old kid and try and make it interesting. So that is what that's the last slide that I said. Did you learn something? Did you find value from it? Did you enjoy creating it? Right? If you don't enjoy creating it, you don't find anything new about it. But guess what? Your audiences will feel the same way. They might not know the technicality, but they will feel it. So you really need to come at it with fresh eyes sometimes.
Right. So it's more like what if I hear you right, you're saying that we need to be in the know-how. We can't just expect it to just pop out in our mind, right? So we need to do a lot of research, understand the product, understand the topic, be in the know, right?
Yeah. You really need to dig into it. The best content. I just read this from what my LinkedIn feed this morning, which I think is very true. The best content comes from insights. Right, the best contents are not at the surface level. The best content comes from inside. You have to go below, what this thing does for human beings and how this connects to human beings.
True. It's amazing that just recently there was the accident on the highway where that concrete block fell on the car, right? Then Then eventually the next news that came out was another piece of another piece fell on another car, right?
That's right.
But
That's right.
after you read through the article, then you realize actually it did not fall on the car. It was an accident that happened on the highway, but somebody actually just picked it up and just tried to somewhat
Oh, so it
relate
was
it
fake
to
news,
the
huh?
concrete block. Yeah, so I guess in the same way, people try to get more shares and more eyeballs by writing somewhat correlates to the viral content that is already been shared, right? So that people also share that particular article, right? Is that a way that people do it?
Well, it really depends what you want to be known for. If your point is to go viral, then no publicity is bad publicity. No publicity is bad publicity, right? So, but if you want to be known for something, if you want to build a reputation from something, then you really need to the term is on brand lah, right? The content that you put out has to be on brand, so
Right.
it has to fit into your purposes. So yeah, I guess then the question would be exactly what your purposes are. You need to be very clear on that.
True. Yeah. So it's important to know that before you create the content as well, right?
Yes,
If
that's
not, you
right.
might just divert into something
And
different.
people will feel it actually. Yeah,
True.
back to LinkedIn, because right now LinkedIn is where people say, yeah, it's happening now. It's you get a lot of organic traffic, and easy to get noticed. But when I look at my newsfeed nowadays on LinkedIn, as a writer, as a content strategist, it's very clear a lot of people are just producing for the sake of producing. They've got a strategy that says I need to put out this many content in 1 week. But
Yep.
okay, fine, you're putting out content that's inspirational, you're putting out content that's engaging, but what do you want to be known for? Right? What's your purpose? What's your strategy? What's your brand that you're building? Right? It's no point getting eyeballs if you don't have a purpose behind it.
True. That brings us to
Unless eyeballs itself is your purpose, then okay lah, I can't say anything lah.
Yeah, true. That brings us to the next question from our attendee. Do you recommend that it is a good idea for organizers to stay active by sharing quotes and inspirational words in their corporate social media? I would like to suggest it to our boss, but not sure how to convince them on the benefits.
Again, it comes back to what your purpose is. I also did some social media management before last time, a few years back, and it was for a car battery company. So before we took over, we went and had a look at the at the social media, their Facebook page. Oh my goodness, this is a major car battery company, not those Chekai brand, a major global brand. Cat videos. Yeah, inspirational quotes, okay, fine, but cat videos, really random stuff. And I'm thinking from a branding and content strategy point of view, how does that help your brand? Right?
Yeah.
So how does putting up a cat video, yes, people will like your cat video, people might share your cat video, but how does that cat video benefit your brand? How does that cat video benefit the story you want to tell about your company, your service, your brand? So that has to be really very, very clear, what your purpose is. So when we went in, what we did was we brainstormed. So we had this thing, we had this 3 circles, right? So the first circle, of course, is about the company, brand, and product. If you go a little bit further, okay, what is related to batteries, driving, right? So that's your second circle. Outside of the first circle, second circle is anything about driving, right? Your car, safety, safety driving, whatever, car maintenance, whatever all this. And then circle outside of that, what would be related to driving? Travel. So then we did a lot of travel features, like day trips where you can go, attractions, you go here, go there, anything that encourages driving. So then we are on brand, right? Because everything circulates around what the company is about, car batteries. So that's one example I can do lah.
Yeah, I guess you need to bring value to the content that you create. It's not just writing and churning something out or sharing something or a news or something like that. You need to have value, and you need to see what kind of value you bring
That's
to the
right.
company, right?
It always has to be value for the audience. Yeah, I see a lot of people, companies, even big companies, they make this mistake is that they want it to feel valuable for themselves, right? The person who is making the decision. But then you really need to ask, who is the audience? If is your typical audience profile exactly the same as the decision maker? If yes, then no problem, you're match. But if your typical audience profile, for example, you're selling makeup, right? If your audience profile, if you're selling makeup, will be typically women, right? But typically the marketing person will be a man. So it doesn't matter what the man likes, right? What you want is what the audience likes. So this guy, you can forget about him. Right? What you want is something that resonates with the audience, right? So that is always you have to keep that in mind.
True. Okay. The next question is we have a couple of few questions, Jiseng, which regards to word counts, right? I guess nowadays that's what everybody's talking about. You got to keep your word count low. You got to keep your word counts, in a specific number. Like you shared just now, it doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah.
So the questions that they asked is, one of it is that what is the right word count for a title of an article?
Oh, title.
That's
okay.
one.
Headlines.
Yeah, and the other one is what is the recommended word count for an article?
Headlines, as few words as possible, right? Because especially in the digital world, this is how much time you have. That's all. So if you're going to have a long headline and people actually have to scroll the screen to read your full headline, I think that doesn't work. So as short as possible, the rough rule of thumb would be like 5 to 8 words. So you have to get really creative sometimes. And but at the same time, if you get creative, I've seen people whose headlines are really too creative until the audience doesn't know what to expect. So crafting a headline is really a skill. A skill.
Yes.
You need to keep it short. It needs to capture attention. It needs to give you just enough information to know what to expect. It can't give you that much information that you don't read anymore, right? But it's got to be catchy enough to pull you to continue reading. So headlines are really hardworking stuff. You need to craft it very carefully.
Yeah, it's true. I also believe that if it's too long, it's a bit difficult for the search engine to actually display it on the search, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I guess that's all the questions we have. Oh, wait, hold on. There's another question that came in, Jiseng. Okay, this one is, can these viral techniques be used for video marketing or postings as well?
Yes, exactly. You can. You can take all the principles and adapt it. So instead of writing in video you need a script anyway. So so you adapt it to your video script. In fact, I think video has an advantage because you can tell stories without words, right? Using visuals. So that's one advantage because visuals are always easier to capture. In terms of social media postings, yes, but just be aware of the word count. Social media, yes, you need to be aware of word count. But there are social media posts like Facebook posts. I think you've read those like grandmother story long Facebook posts that have actually gone viral. So
yeah, true.
There's still no hard and fast rule. It all really comes down to the actual content that you produce.
Right. Okay, any last words, Jiseng, before we leave?
No. So I guess if you have no more questions, thank you very much for being here with me, and thank you very much to Norman and VLAN Asia for having me.
Jiseng, if there's any, if they want to get like any example of viral content that can be shared with them, or any tips that they want to get in touch with you, how is there a way of them getting in touch with you, liking you on LinkedIn?
Sure. You can actually connect with me on LinkedIn because I do post daily on LinkedIn about branding and communications. So you can follow me, or if you connect with me, just send me a DM. I will answer you.
Right. Okay lah, Chiseng. We'll take one last question lah.
Okay, all right.
They want to know why did you share all the content, very long ones, no short content.
Oh, my shortest content is still more than 1,000 words. So so all the editors, they really take a chance on me. But I guess after the first content when exploded, the first content was the 10 words, right? So imagine if one of the words I use 100 words to explain, it's already 1,000 plus words, right? Plus the introduction. So yeah, so I don't know. I don't think I've actually written a piece of original content that's less than 1,000 words. But for client work, yes, they have certain constraints, so we have to fit within that constraint.
Right.
Yeah, but to show you is also to prove a point about word count as well.
Okay, right. So they can get in touch with you through LinkedIn, right? How do you search your name again, Chiseng?
Yeah. I'll share the link again now. Hold on.
Okay. You can just drop it in the Q&A section and then they will find you. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, so you can the links are in the chat box, so you can just go to the chat box and just click on them.
Right. So the next session will be 2 weeks from now. It's on Do or Die, why everyone needs personal branding. It's related as well to this. Chiseng will be sharing on the 6th of October, right? At 2 p.m. Yeah, October 6th, 2 p.m. If you want to join us for that session, you can scan the QR code which is displayed on the screen and register yourself. It's free. Yeah, so the sessions are free.
Yeah,
so,
also, can I say a little bit about this? Personal branding, a lot of people don't think it's necessary, but actually it's more necessary now than ever. Why don't you try this experiment? After this, you go and Google yourself and see what comes up. All right? So you'll be surprised. If nothing comes up, well, it can be good or no good, because right, if you want to be known for something, if you need to be known in the market for something, right, then it's not good. If you do come up, then you need to see what comes up, right? If it comes up, like for me, last time I used to be very politically active, and I realized that it's not going to help my business. So that's why I toned down, right? So Google yourself and see what comes up, and you might be surprised. So and personal branding is not about bragging. Personal branding is about presenting your best version of you forward, right? So that's to help your business as well.
Yes, that's right. It's a way of letting people know who you are, as well as it builds your confidence as well there, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, and then this coming Thursday, we also have another webinar which is on shortcuts to maximize your team functions. If you're already using Microsoft Teams and you want to find out more on how to maximize the functions, do join us. Just scan the QR code and join us on Thursday, 2 p.m. this coming Thursday, and you'll find out more about it. And yeah, if you have any feedbacks for today's webinar, just scan this QR code and drop us your feedbacks in order for us to improve our sharing, as well as the topics that we're coming up with. We'll see you again coming Thursday. So everybody stay safe and have a good week ahead. Thanks, Chiseng.
Welcome. See you again.
Bye.
Bye.